today's adventure, which is getting myself out of a book slump. It's literally 11:11 at night. I just talked about this in a clip that I just filmed for one of my other videos that I didn't want to start making a video at nighttime, but I feel like this must be done because this is getting a little ridiculous. I am in a massive book slump to the point where I literally read 2 books, and I'm trying to like make myself sound better. I read 4 books in April. No, I didn't read 4 books in April. I read 2 books in April. 2 books. And one of them I started in March. One of them I didn't even fully read in April, which is terrible. Literally so bad. I don't know what my problem is. I am in book slump over here. I don't even know. I don't know what the problem is. I've been reading Ruthless Vows for like a month now. Literally. No, I guess not really, but it's been like a couple weeks at least, and I'm only 50% of the way through. So I picked up, what is this even called? Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I'm gonna start reading this tonight because I need something to refresh my brain, I guess. I need to get out of the romance or something, pick up a thriller. Might as well, right? That sounds like the right move, right? I don't know anymore. I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know what my life is right now, but it's not good. So I'm gonna start reading this. We're gonna start a little getting out of my book slump journey here. Who knows if this actually is gonna work? I don't know what the problem is at all, but it's bad. It's really bad. So we'll see if this fixes it. Hopefully. Probably not, but we'll get into it. I literally stayed up all night and I finished Then She Was Gone. Look, I've read books that are so much worse than this, but for some reason this book really upset me. I don't know why. I mean, obviously it was like sensitive, touchy topics. I know that, but it, like, normally books don't get to me like that. And I don't want to say this one got to me necessarily, but it definitely gave me some weird feelings. It definitely upset me, and I was just really sad for the character and everything. So that was definitely not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to actually like feel anything for this. I just figured it was gonna be like a good thriller or whatever, but man, it was kind of heavy. I don't know why. I've read books that are worse than this that are true stories, and for some reason this one is hitting me a lot harder. I don't know why, couldn't tell you, but I would say maybe proceed with caution a little bit on this one, even if you're not like super sensitive to a bunch of stuff. Like, it got me for some weird reason. I was going into parts of this and just being really nervous and extremely on edge, even though it's just a book and like what's the worst that can happen, the worst has pretty much already happened, so I don't know how much worse it can get. But I was just like heart pumping. I didn't know what to do. I was just freaking out. So that was kind of weird. I've never like experienced that before in a book, and again, I've read a lot worse than this. I've read stuff that's a lot heavier than this, a lot grosser, just way worse, and it was true, and it didn't hit me as hard as this did. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but like I said, most books don't really get to me. Most books don't. I'm just not really fazed by it. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I'm just not. This one had me a little fazed, I'm not gonna lie, but I got through it. I think the ending was a little odd. I definitely was not expecting that in the slightest. All of the bits of information that we ended up finding out later on through the book, I did figure all of that was going to happen. So there wasn't really any plot twists for me other than the very end. It was a lot more heartfelt than I was expecting, I guess. I normally just expect thriller books to be like this really aggressive ending and that's it, but this one was not that. It was definitely the opposite of probably anything that I could have guessed. So I didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. I guess it worked for the story, and it was good for the characters. I guess it needed to happen, but I just thought it was a little odd. It kind of came out of left field for me. Not actually, but it felt like it did, being a thriller mystery book. You know what I'm saying? I really don't know how to explain it. It was really good. Leading up to it, the ending was a little but you just expect everything to kind of go a different way, and you expect some negativity, but it really just kind of is a positive ending, which is definitely different than what I would normally think would happen. I don't know if that's really spoiling it, but I'm not like giving any information away, but that's just the way that I felt about it. So I'm gonna struggle with a rating on this. I feel like I don't really know what I'm thinking, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I think that if the ending was a little bit different, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but I'm struggling with like the storyline and how much I like that versus the feelings that I got from it. So it's kind of where I'm sitting with this right now, but I did finish it in about a 24-hour period, roughly, a little bit more. I'm surprised. I did not think that I was going to finish this quickly, but I'm definitely eager to start something different. I think that I've just been wanting to read a book, but I'm not sure. So we'll see. We'll see if that's what I'm actually wanting to do. So now I have two choices for what I want to read next. So I'm kind of stuck in between Carrie Soto's Back and Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I don't know which of these I'm feeling more drawn to. I don't know, because I just read a thriller mystery. This one I heard is a really good mystery, so I don't know if I want to stay on that same track or if I do want to switch it up, give myself a palate cleanser from that so I'm not doing too much of the same thing, and then just go into a Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really like her books. I like the way that she writes, kind of literary fiction, but it's still always very intriguing for the most part, so I don't know what I want to do. I'll figure it out. I'll probably have somebody pick it for me because I really don't know. Either way, I think I'll probably end up reading both of these like back-to-back-ish. The only thing is, if I start this one, I'm going to want to finish the series. I'm pretty sure. Having a terrible memory, it's really hard to read series not back-to-back because then I forget everything that happened. So we'll see. I'll let you know what I decide. I've got some other things to do right now, but I'll come back and I'll let you know. at this point I literally could have done a 24-hour readathon and been fine. But man, Nick called me right as I was trying to go to sleep, and he was like, hey, we're under a tornado watch, so stay up and just watch the news. So I stayed up until like 3 in the morning, and I finished A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. In that span, I'm done with it. So I really enjoyed it. I really did. I don't think that I'm going to be able to talk too much about this right now. I'm exhausted. I woke up 2 hours after I went to sleep, just in the middle of the fattest storm. We've got massive tornado watches all day. And it's just gonna get worse tonight, so praying for everybody that has been affected by the tornado. I've apparently just hit, what's it called, Oklahoma, and then I also just saw that it hit Michigan pretty good just earlier today, and then Ohio. So prayers go out to all y'all folks. Not fun. Do not love tornado season at all, but it did give me the perfect opportunity to finish A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I had a suspicion from the very beginning of the story, and I just stuck to that. I never really changed my theories. I'm so sorry. I never really swapped up on my theory. It was just, that's what I thought. And then I kind of stuck to that the whole time, even learning new information about different people and stuff. I still just felt like my theory felt right to me, I guess. That was not correct. My theory was not correct at all. But it was nice not jumping all over the place and being like, oh, well, that makes sense now. Like, I feel like actually it might be that. Hold on. I actually have to read this. I actually have to watch this. There is nothing scarier than living in a top floor apartment and just not really having access, I feel like, to weather that I would like to. I don't know, like, obviously news places aren't 24/7 just weather. The last weather channel that I clicked on the last time we had a tornado up here a few months back, it was 24/7 news. That's all it was covering. This one's not like that. It's just a bunch of random information, and then just every now and then they'll pop in with the news, which is kind of annoying, but like, what can you really do? I don't know. I don't have a very good feeling about this one for some reason, so I'm a little nervous. But like I said, I finished this book. I really liked it. It wasn't a very heavy mystery thriller at all. It definitely was not thrilling by any means. It was more on the mystery side. It was really just on the mystery side, we'll put it that way. It definitely had me questioning everything, but again, I still had that theory and I stuck with it for the entire time. So it wasn't like I'm going back and forth between, oh, I think this happened, well, now that this information came out, I think that maybe this happened. It just was pretty much from the moment the basic information was introduced, I formed an opinion in my head and then just rode that out for the entire rest of the story. I don't think the ending is something that you would come across just from hearing the little bits and pieces here and there. Personally, I think that it is one of those where it does take it explaining to be like, oh, okay, like I see where that happens. I see all of the details fitting into place this way. But that's probably not a conclusion that I would have come to on my own. Obviously I didn't, but I wasn't really thinking that hard into it. I was really just writing out, watching her figure it out, and that's kind of where I enjoyed the book more. I didn't really want to sit there and pinpoint each little thing and pick all the stories apart, because I don't think that we were given enough information to be able to do that. It would have just been like, oh, here's a bit of information towards the very end that comes out, and you're like, oh, okay, like, cool. But she ends up putting it all together before I feel like anybody else would, for the most part. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not questioning your intelligence or whatever, not saying that you couldn't figure it out, but I feel like it would be more of an unlikely thing to figure out. There was one, like, thought that I had that I can't remember what it was now. I was gonna compare it to something, but now I don't know what it is. I don't know what it reminded me of. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. I almost wrote it down in my notes too, and I didn't. It was like a show or something that it reminded me of very heavily. I don't know. I'll figure it out at some point, and I'll let you know what it reminded me of, because it was a very accurate thing, in my opinion. Whatever. I probably won't remember it, let's be real. But I enjoyed this. I thought it was very good. Now I'm focusing on what I was gonna say about it, and I just can't remember. Here's my only problem though. This video is me trying to get out of a book slump, correct? So I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. Now I've read this. So I've read 2 mystery thriller books in this time frame. I have to sneeze. I don't remember what it reminded me of. Oh, it's driving me freaking nuts. I read 2 mystery thrillers in this video, right? And I will say that I've gotten through these both fairly quickly. Not fully within 24-hour periods, but I've started them the night before and then finished them the next night. So a little bit longer than 24-hour periods. Like I started this one yesterday at, I don't know, 8 p.m. and I just finished it this morning at 3 a.m. So not quite a 24-hour period, but it's almost in one setting. So that's good. And I have not done that in forever. I'm still trying to finish Ruthless Vows. But I just read 2 books pretty much all the way through, which is nice. That's good. But like I was saying, I don't even know if I've said this or if it was in another video that I made. This is a trilogy. This is book 1 in a 3-book series. I don't want to jump into the series and slump myself out. That's my only problem. So I feel like if I start book number 2 right away, I'm going to lose interest. So I don't really want to do that. But I think that it's okay if I don't start book 2 immediately, because this book was resolved. It's not leaving you on any type of cliffhanger or anything like that. It was completely solved. There were some little bits of information that she was talking about how they didn't really get figured out. They just kind of fizzled off. They didn't really piece together with the story, but she experienced some type of weirdness with it, and she just chalked it up to the many mysteries and secrets of the town. But I would assume that the next book is going to focus on like something totally different. I don't know. I know nothing about the second book. So I think I'm okay if I skip that one for right now and then come back to it a little bit later. So I'm thinking I might pick up Carrie Soto's Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That'll give me a slight palate cleanser, and I'm not just reading a 3-book series. I'm not getting stuck in that. I feel like I'll get halfway through the second book and I'll be like, Not to mention, on top of that, I am exhausted. I've got 2 hours of sleep under my belt, which, I'll go back to sleep here in a minute. But when I don't get enough sleep like that, I've just got this gnawing pit in my stomach. I feel so nauseous, and I feel really uneasy. I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel so, like, unwell, and it's really just, like, a mental thing. I just don't feel good at all. And I know that I don't want to read. I feel that right now, given the state that I'm in. That's how I feel. So I don't want to pick up another book right now. I thought about it. I was going to go ahead and start the second book, but I think that I just need to give it some time. I need to not pick anything up until I wake back up or something. Give myself some time to readjust and then go into something else, so that way I'm not overloading my system, especially while I'm feeling like I'm feeling. I'm gonna lay on the couch now, continue watching the news, the weather. I'm going to think about what this book reminded me of, because it was so strong in my head, and now I can't remember, and that's irritating the crap out of me. So I'm gonna figure that out. I'll let you know when I figure out what it is. And then I'll try to figure out what book I'm going to read, let you know. We'll start that together. I don't know if you can hear that. We have cats that fight out there. They like street fight with each other. It's kind of ridiculous. But anyways, I literally just turned off the camera and read the back of the book just a little bit. And I remembered, it reminds me of Pretty Little Liars. 100%. There was little bits of things that happened that definitely gave me the same vibes, things that was happening to the main character that were kind of similar to the things that would happen to the girls in that show. And obviously it was a more like PG version of that. There wasn't really any cussing in this. There wasn't anything like explicit. It just was a very like tame and chill mystery book. In that aspect, it wasn't the same. And like, I'm sure if you've read the book and you've watched Pretty Little Liars, you can see where I'm putting the two together and saying like, oh yeah, this kind of lines up. The way that she was trying to figure out what was going on, she's like working with somebody, she's going and trying to get information from other people, lying about stuff to figure out what she needs to figure out, and just like trying to put all the pieces together to figure out who did this. It kind of just reminded me of them trying to figure out who A is, and then A kind of like blackmailing them and getting them to do stuff to get off the trail, and they don't really know who is coming after them, but it's somebody, and they're trying to figure out who that is. They're trying to figure out like all the secrets of the town. Like it gave me Pretty Little Liar vibes, and I really did like that about this. Is it even remotely similar? Probably not, but to me it was. So that's what it reminded me of. But again, I'm gonna go back to sleep and then we'll figure out what book I'm gonna read next. I had to bring my little grill in so it didn't fly away or anything. But I am going to be starting Carrie Soda's Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm very excited to get going on this. I didn't even know that you could serve at 126 miles an hour. I'm not anywhere close to that, I can tell you that for a fact. So if I'm not mistaken, I left off saying that I was going to start Carrie Soda's Back. Not positive. I don't quite remember. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But I did end up starting and finishing Carrie Soda's Back. I don't have the book with me. I lent it out to my brother, who is a more avid tennis player than I am. Don't get me wrong, I'm no Carrie Soto, but I have played tennis with my brother and stuff before, just kind of casually learning and playing our own matches, whatever. I'm not good. That's not what I'm saying. But I do kind of understand the realm of tennis a lot more, I feel like, than just the average person, I guess. I don't know. My brother's big into like the championships and the actual nitty-gritties and all the stuff of tennis. And we learn the nitty-gritties of like the serves, the footwork, the whatever. So for me, like, I kind of understood that a lot more than I feel like just a normal person picking up the book would. And that's not to put me on a pedestal by any means. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's not grounds for me to be like, yeah, I'm better than you, obviously. But for me, I kind of understand tennis a little bit more, so therefore the book wasn't as tennis heavy for me. It was a very tennis heavy book, of course, but for me it wasn't like, oh, I don't really understand this topic that we're talking about, therefore going on and on and on about it isn't really interesting to me. I guess I would kind of compare it to that new Allie Hazelwood book, is it Check and Mate? I've not read it, but I don't know anything about chess. I play chess on my phone occasionally, but like, I'm not good at it, I don't understand it, I just know how the pieces move and that's about it. So for me, a whole book about chess, I wouldn't necessarily care for it, I don't think, because I don't understand anything about chess, versus I understand stuff about tennis, so an entire book based on the nitty-gritties of tennis and really just the detailed information about it, it doesn't bore me as much and I'm more fascinated by it because I do kind of understand the world behind it and all that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just kind of the way that I felt while reading it. It definitely didn't bore me at all. I wasn't just overwhelmed by the tennis aspect. It wasn't too much tennis for me. I actually enjoyed the amount of tennis that was in it. I think it was really interesting, and I liked kind of being able to jump into the matches and see what was going on and like hear how she was hitting the ball and just all the different things. It kind of helps paint a picture if you do understand what's going on, exactly kind of how the match is going. Now, there were some things that I read in it that I was like, I don't know how accurate that is. I really don't know, but I feel like it's a little inaccurate. But at the end of the day, I don't know if Taylor Jenkins Reid is like a tennis guru or not. I feel like she really does a good job at interviewing people and really just learning every bit of information that she can about a particular topic that she's starting to write about. So I really enjoy that. She definitely feels very knowledgeable on most every topic. So I do like that. But if there are some things in there that aren't exactly 100% accurate in the real world, I'm not going to fault her for that just because I get it. I wouldn't be able to 100% make everything sound 100% accurate if I don't know exactly enough about tennis myself and I'm kind of just researching to write the book. You know what I'm saying? I'm not faulting her, but there were some things that I was like, oh, I feel like that's a little unbelievable. I don't believe that. But it wasn't like it made the book bad by any means. I really, really enjoyed it, actually. That was probably one of the best books that I've read this year so far. I don't know. I just, something about the way that she writes, it feels so real and it feels like a true story. And I really enjoy that. I don't know. It's just so good. Really good. So I finished that one. All was good. And then I ended up starting the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. This one's Good Girl, Bad Blood. Started this one. I'm on page 124. I'm liking it so far, but we are on page 124 and we're just now getting into the storyline of this book. A lot of it was kind of, I don't want to say wrapping up the last book, but a lot of it was going back and explaining stuff that was going on because of the last book, like the trials and stuff, and then her starting a podcast based on the case and all that. So it definitely took a lot of getting into that to get into this book. I don't think that I really, you know me, I'm very much like once the book is over, I'm kind of done with it. There's not really any part of me that's wanting more through the book. That's why I don't like epilogues that much. I don't care to read an epilogue. I'll read them, but I'm kind of done with it by the time I get to like, okay, the story's wrapped up. I'm over it. So for me, reading more of the first book, I didn't really need it. I didn't care for it necessarily. I think that it could have been like a little bit shorter. She could have just mentioned starting the podcast and then had one episode of the podcast talking about like some of the details that we went on to see and then kind of gotten into the mystery of this book. But it wasn't like that. I'm not mad about it, but it's just not my favorite thing to see in a book. It's definitely felt like a 100-page epilogue so far. And then the last few chapters we've picked up on the actual mystery fresh to this book. So far, this one I'm not liking as much. I don't know if I'm going to care about the storyline in this one as much as I did the first one. I don't know. The first one was definitely very interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like it really jumped into that first mystery. I don't really remember though. It could not have. But I think that it was very immediate, which I liked that. And I did like the whole aspect of the town mysteries and all that. It definitely felt very mysterious. Again, I've said it before, it reminded me of Pretty Little Liars, how everything just was this massive secret and everybody had secrets and everybody had things going on behind the scenes that they're trying to figure out, they're uncovering. They're like, oh well, this person's lying, this person's not lying. It's a whole big cluster of crap going on with the town, and this is very much that. And I'm kind of curious to see how many more secrets this town is going to have. Hopefully it's going to be a lot like the first one. But I think the podcast in this one, this is just me nitpicking, obviously, but I think that her having a podcast in this one and her, like, actually out loud interviewing everybody for the podcast, I don't love that, but, like, it is what it is. I understand. I am enjoying this one so far. I really don't have much to say. It's a very different book from the first one. It obviously feels kind of the same. It's not following the same case at all. The characters, I guess, are kind of the same. They talk about, obviously, in the first, like, 100-some pages, the previous case. So if you don't want to read the first book, I guess you really don't have to, as far as I know. You might not really understand who some of the characters are, like the main characters, but, I mean, other than that, you could go into this one if you didn't want to read the first one. But I probably wouldn't recommend it. But so far I am liking the first one better. Obviously I finished the first one, I'm not finished this one yet, but I'm excited to see where this goes, finish this one up. I think I'll probably stop this video after I finish this book. I'm not really sure yet, but I have definitely been reading a whole lot, as you can probably not tell because I haven't really taken that many clips, but I have been reading actually a lot. Surprisingly, I start this video and then my book slump just goes away, of course, but I'm not complaining. I can't complain. I'll let you know how this goes, and then maybe I'll get into the third book. Who knows what's going on. But the ultimate goal is to not be in a book slump, so I'm doing a ton of mood reading. I think I'm going to end up skipping my Kindle Mystery Challenge for this month. I'll probably end up completing it, but I'm not going to make a video out of it or anything like that. So that way I'm focused solely on getting out of my book slump and staying out of my book slump. So I'll probably end up just picking up the books that I'm reading actually on Kindle and then using that to complete my mystery challenge. But who knows, we'll see. My April mystery challenge is coming in hot in May. It's very late, but that'll just kind of hopefully tide you over in that aspect. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows? We know I'm not very consistent with it. I try to be, but that has not been working out for me lately.
Their shells are actually soft, and they're squishy.
You just saved him. He would have died. Bet you can't guess where we are. Sounded like someone was walking up on me. That's terrifying. It literally made my heart fall into my butt crack. I'm 186 pages in and it's just now starting to get really good. I'm very intrigued by the path that we're on right now, and I'm very curious to see how this relates to the rest of the story. They've definitely already found like their suspect. They kind of know what's going on, but they don't know who it is, which is kind of fun. I like that. I just finished Good Girl, Bad Blood. I really liked it. The only problem that I had with it, other than, like I said, the beginning of it just feeling really repetitive and just a big long epilogue to the first book, which I didn't care for, this one really just had me thrown for a loop. I feel like the reasoning behind the kidnapping in this book was definitely very off the wall. It definitely wasn't something that I would have expected from this. It kind of just felt like we were going through the story and then all of a sudden we needed to have a reason for what was going on, and it just kind of got thrown together last minute. That's just what it felt like to me. I don't feel like it really made sense to the story. I could be so wrong. I'm sure other people would disagree. I'm not saying that it was bad by any means, but it definitely just felt very out of left field. I was not expecting it to be anything like that. It just kind of, I don't know. Again, it wasn't bad. It just didn't make sense to me. I didn't really understand why that was the plot that we decided to go with. Because like I said, leading up to it was really good. And then by the time they started figuring out what was happening and the motivation for the kidnapping, it just felt a little weird. But that's just me. Didn't care for that as much, but like I said, the story was pretty good. And I do really enjoy the way that she does all these books and stuff with all the little tidbits of information. Because we have the conversations between the characters just written out like in a script form, and then there's different little pieces of information here and there, like a missing persons poster, and then they have little text bubbles and stuff, which I feel like most books have that at this point. And then somewhere in here there's a map. There's a few maps probably, but you get the point. It makes it so much more enjoyable to read, in my opinion, and I really like reading these books. This one just was not as good as the first one. I don't know if I would knock it down any more ratings, I guess, than the first one. I really don't know. I still really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good series. I think I was more expecting it to be just one big long series following Andy's case, and that wasn't exactly what happened, but nonetheless I still do enjoy it. I am excited to get into the third book. I don't know if I'm going to end up taking a break or not. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to sell myself out, so I might pick a different book and read it in between this one. The only problem with this, though, I feel like I'm going to be missing characters and I'm not going to be following along, because one of the main characters in this book we talked about in the last book, and I didn't really remember them at all. I don't remember any storyline with them being in it at all. Same thing with the actual perpetrator of this. We talked about them and they came up multiple times in the book, but I just didn't remember them. So by the time I figured out who it was, I was like, who is that? I don't even recall them at all. So that's my fault, obviously. There's nothing wrong with the book because of that. I just have a terrible memory, and so for me, waiting to read the third book is kind of a bad idea, but at the same time, I don't want to just be back to back to back reading a series like this, but I can't read it too separated. So I'll see what I want to do in terms of picking up another book in between this and the third book. I don't really know yet. I probably will end up doing that, which I will let you know, but who knows? Literally couldn't tell you. But I can tell you that that is going to be the end of my getting out of a reading slump vlog. I don't know what happened. I don't know how the tables turned for this video. I literally started, like I said, this video with 2 to 3 books under my belt for April, which for me, that's not good. So jumping into this, I definitely think that I needed to go ahead and make a switch over to reading physical books. It's something that I was definitely needing to do, but I don't know what happened. Like I said, I was not in the mood to read at all for April, and then I just hopped back into May, started this video, and then for some reason just got out of that reading slump fairly quickly, which is good, but doesn't really make for a super entertaining book slump video. It really just doesn't look like I'm in a book slump. I swear I was. I promise you. But, oh well. I mean, I can't really complain. I feel like we should be more excited that I'm out of it. That's the real excitement out of this. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you liked them. If so, which one is your favorite? I'm very curious. I really enjoyed all of the books that I read in this video. I think that there was not a bad one out of the bunch. I think if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be Carrie Soto's Back. I absolutely love that book, and I probably will not stop thinking about that for a very, very long time. But that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for helping me get out of this book slump. I'm glad that you're here. I really appreciate you. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of your week, and I hopefully will get to see you in the next one. See ya.